Do you feel that in a time when we are more connected than ever, we are drifting away from real human connection, especially to ourselves? I do. Hi, I'm Leticia Latino, and I want to invite you to join me and my very inspiring guests in exploring ways to reconnect to your essence, to your definite purpose, to what makes you tick. Are you ready? Hello, everybody, and welcome to a new episode of Back to Basics, Reconnecting to the Essence of You. I have a super special guest today, Herman Bulls. He's the Vice Chairman, America's International Director at JLL's a global financial and professional services firm specializing in real estate operations and investment management. During over 35 years, he has worked with the firm's largest public and corporate clients to devise and implement integrated real estate strategies to lower occupancy costs and increase productivity. He provides thought leadership and strategic guidance to senior level executives and has served as an expert witness on real estate matters in court and testified before congressional committees on real estate issues. Herman is a National Association of Corporate Directors Fellow and has been recognized as one of the most influential individuals in corporate America and one of the top 100 corporate governance professionals in the nation. He sits on multiple boards, has founded several companies, and has received so many accolades that there are too many to count. But among the most recent ones, he was named NAACD 2024 Public Company Director of the Year, and he has been inducted in the Alabama Business Hall of Fame. Last but not least, he has 12 years of active duty service with the United States Army under his belt. And his last active duty assignments were working at the Pentagon and at West Point. He retired as a colonel in the U.S. Army Reserves in 2008. Hello, Herman. I could keep reading and reading. My God, you have what a background you have.
You are so kind. Thank you very much.
No, it's incredible. From the moment I had the pleasure to meet you in person at an event, I usually have a radar for people that in a professional setting can inspire. And you did just that. And I follow you on LinkedIn. And so I say, I hope he says yes to maybe sharing your story and inspiring others. And I was not surprised when you actually, very busy man, I reach out on LinkedIn and you say yes. And that it's already I'm very grateful for.
To whom much is given, much is expected, Leticia.
Amen. I love that. So Herman, I know that with everything I read, one can tell that you have had different journeys, the military, real estate, entrepreneurship. I'm always very curious about upbringings and what young Herman dreamt about. Did you dream about any of the things you did?
Not exactly how they turned out. However, I always had an ambition to be successful. And it really started like most people. I was not born with a silver spoon in my mouth. I'm the youngest of 7 kids.
Oh, wow.
And I was raised in Alabama. You mentioned the Alabama Business Hall of Fame, and that's the state that I lived in until I was 18 years old and went to college. And my upbringing was one that is, I think, part of the inspiration for many of the things that I do. And I had the unfortunate experience of not ever meeting my father because he was killed in a traffic accident while my mother was pregnant with me.
Oh, my God.
He was killed in October 1955. And my mother, I say I'm the youngest of 7, I was born in February 1956. So at this point, my mother was actually in another part of the county, I should say, in Alabama, and she was picking cotton. And my dad, who was a laborer, he was basically a janitor at the Tennessee Valley Authority. However, entrepreneur, I think I got some of my entrepreneurship from him. In addition to his job, he also was a farmer. So he had purchased 2 plots of land. And in this particular day, he was going from where the homestead is to the other parcel of land to do some farming. And he had to get on a busy 4-lane highway. And when he got on the 4-lane highway, unfortunately, an 18-wheeler truck ran into his tractor and he was killed. So
Oh my
mom
God,
is there
that's
at the time, without any education, pregnant, 6 kids and pregnant with a seventh. And she pulled us all together. And I'm proud to say now 6 of those 7 kids finished college with a total of 11 degrees. Uh,
wow.
didn't finish,
Oh,
still went to college for a while. And my mother went from not having a high school education, from getting a GED, general equivalency diploma. Then she went to the junior college and became a licensed practical nurse. And it
oh my goodness.
moved us from what could have been a very poor environment to a, middle class existence.
Wow. She sounds like I want her on my podcast. Side note, but okay, that I work on that. That
Definitely.
is pretty impressive. Yeah, I mean, I'm sorry about your family. It must be hard never to, to know that you were already about to come to the world when you lost your dad. That must be very hard. But incredible testament to your mother and the strength to raise the kids and to be successful, as you mentioned, and educated. So when you may had to make the decision, were you ever like clear in terms of imagine with all these siblings, like, okay, what am I gonna do next? Or it was kind of,
Well, it's very interesting. So we lived on the farm until I was seventh grade. And at seventh grade, we moved, quote unquote, to the town of Florence, Alabama, as opposed to being out in an agrarian environment. And I was fortunate to be a halfway decent athlete. I was a good student. And from looking at my family, there was no question that I was going to go to college. You understand what I'm
mm,
saying? Because that was
mhm,
kind of just what was expected. All of my
yeah.
siblings had done that, and I was now. You have to let's go back now. This is in the late '60s and the early '70s, and
Hmm.
we're not that far removed from very demanding times. And I mean, some of the things that
Hmm.
had an impact on me, for example, is going to the movie theater. If you were black, you had to buy your ticket, then you had to go up to the balcony. Uh, when you went to the public places, for example, the public places, there was a water fountain, whites only, bathroom,
Mm.
whites only. Probably the most demeaning, one of the most demeaning is the organization called the KKK, Ku Klux Klan.
Mhm,
They would
mhm.
actually be out on the road with their hoods on. They wouldn't bother you, but they would have their pails taking donations, and they would stop you.
Oh,
And
yeah.
and then the one that was to this day I still think about. My kids only know about this from me telling it, maybe seeing it in movies. When we wanted to go and eat, we couldn't go inside of a restaurant and sit down. You had to go to the back, get your food, pay for it, and basically take out because
Oh
you.
my God.
So
You
this is
know that as a Venezuelan, and I share this with you, in my country, like we never, I felt difference in race when I moved to the United States. And that was 30 years ago, a little bit, like we're talking a little bit before here. And you hear this, and it still shocks me because it's hard to even imagine that was the case.
well, I have, as a 5, 6-year-old, I have those distinct memories. And of course,
Mm,
my kids, I have three sons and 4 grandkids and soon a fifth one.
mm.
They will
Oh, wow.
never, really realize and experience that. And I think that experience totally being in my high school where it was 16% black and the
Mm,
majority, this was after integration. We had
mhm,
what we call desegregation. It used to be
mhm,
the whole idea of separate and equal schools, and blacks went to one school, whites to another one. And in the late '60s, obviously, we had desegregation. In the school I went to, I was definitely a minority. However, I was very fortunate and I learned some life lessons in terms of relationship building with people. And I was very fortunate. And by my senior year, I was the first black quarterback of the football team. And if you know about football, at this
Wow.
time, blacks were not supposed to be smart enough to play that position.
Mhm, mhm.
I was National Honor Society student. I was
Mhm.
president of the student council,
Oh,
hold a record in the high jump, blah, 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 blah.
oh,
So,
that is amazing.
certainly did it all on definitely married. And then had this opportunity. You said, what did I envision myself doing? And I was recruited for both academics as well as football. And looking at all the opportunities I had, probably the best, second best opportunity to go to a civilian college of note was Vanderbilt University
Mm.
and all of the military academies, because I fit the profile of a good athlete, a good student, and leadership as demonstrated
Mhm.
by the student council president. And as a result of that, I looked at all of the options, and it was a little, I tell you, Leticia, it was a little nerve wracking in that people are telling you you're 17 years old, 16, 17, and people are telling you at that point how successful you're going to be based on,
Mhm.
from my perspective, I'm just kind of me. And it's
Mhm.
really a lonely and scary thing to hear.
Mhm.
And even though I had this fantastic high school career, I looked around, I said, my gosh, what am I going to do next? And what I
Mhm.
chose was the hardest thing that I could imagine, and that was going to West Point
Oh,
because
wow.
it would challenge me. And to the extent if I was able to make it through that, I said, I'm going to be, this successful. You asked me what I wanted to be. I can remember as a kid, I used to watch Perry Mason. So it's a TV
Mhm.
show about a
Yes.
lawyer. And
Mhm.
when I went to college, that's what I actually thought I wanted to be, was a lawyer.
Wow, that's so inspirational in so many fronts. Like, I love how you highlight the excellence. Like somebody say, just be excellent and good things happen.
Can we pause for 1 second?
Absolutely. Yes.
I'll do it. I'll take care of it. Okay, are you leaving now? Okay, thank you. Bye-bye. And my sister Mary will be here next week, but you'll see her next time, okay? I will. Bye-bye. Sorry. You can edit that, right?
Yes, yes, no problem. Don't worry.
Great. So yeah, so Perry Mason lawyer, that's what I thought I wanted to be.
That's amazing. And what I love about what you share, and thank you for that, is how you didn't allow, I mean, you grew up in very, very challenging times. And yet, not once in what you're sharing right now, you said, well, poor me, I was, like, had this situation at home, or we were living into this time. Like, it sounds like you decided to be excellent and be participative in everything you do. And then so that to excel really, which is what a lot of people say, just do your thing, be excellent at what you do, and then the rest shall follow. And even making that decision, you were wearing your shirt because then you eventually went and worked there at West Point, which I'm sure was a very difficult decision because we always say, should I go this way or that way? How do you justify sometimes maybe making a decision? Like, what do you go for? Is it gut feeling? Is it, what is it going to give me in the long run? How do you think sometimes?
But it's funny you say that. I have a plaque downstairs that that a quote that I actually was exposed to in high school by President Kennedy. He says, don't ask what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country.
Mm, I
And
love that.
he really took that to task. I don't want to, sound too perfect or patriotic, but you remember when I decided to go to West Point, the Vietnam War was still officially going on. And it's like, some people see that and they run the other way. And I said,
Mhm.
I will try to do my part. And so that decision, and plus the other thing, they recruited me in football. So I had an opportunity to continue to play a sport that I really loved. And then I also just wanted the challenge because if you feel that you're good, you want to compete with the best.
Mhm.
And West Point and all of our service academies certainly was representative of a group of very, very talented young men and later women who are very much committed and willing to give the utmost sacrifice for someone else.
Mm, that's beautiful. Yeah, culture of service. I think in all these interviews that I've done that are now almost 300, the most fulfilled people have showcased a love for service, a love for really not for the self, but for the greater good. So that's so great that you mention it. And you embark on this career, and you stayed in the army, right, for 12 years.
12 years on active duty, and it was very much formative years of my life. On my first assignment, I had the opportunity to meet uh, the young lieutenant who would become my wife, and unfortunately
Oh,
lost her 4 years ago to cancer, but we were
oh,
married
I'm sorry to.
2 years. And on my
Wow.
first assignment, we met and we got married. And she was also in the Army, as I said. So we had
Mm.
assignments at Fort Dix, New Jersey. Then we went to Korea together. We lived in Korea for 2 years. And I tell my oldest son he was made in Korea, even though he was born back in the United States. And we went to Indianapolis together. We're both in the Army. And then both of us had very good Army careers. So the Army selected us both to go back to graduate school, which they funded. And
Oh, wow.
was when I went to Harvard Business School, and my wife went to Tufts University, and also in Medford and Boston as well. And after our time in school, our second kid was born. Then we moved to West Point, where
Mm.
I was a professor of finance and economics, and my wife worked in the admissions office.
Oh my God. What I love this story. What an alignment. What
Yeah.
an alignment.
And after that assignment, and we seemed to have kids every time we moved. And we moved here to the Washington, D.C. area. And I worked in the Pentagon, and my wife worked on the Bush Quell Inaugural Committee. It was time for inauguration of our new president, and the military plays a big role in that. And
Mhm.
she was a administrative officer, a captain, helping to get that done. And probably 2 years later, we both left active Army, and she stayed in government service. And bless her heart, she had a phenomenal career. She actually ended up being a presidential appointee. She was the number two person for personnel for the entire Army.
Oh my goodness. Wow.
Did that for President Clinton. And then
Incredible.
I left and went into the private sector, into real estate, with a predecessor of Jones Lang LaSalle, which was called LaSalle Partners. And she went on to have a very, very distinguished senior government career. And I got into business and, you know, did real
The
estate.
rest is history. Well, the rest is not history because I mean, of course, I had done research on you, but you have such a rich journey from service, from public enterprise, from private, and no wonder that you have so many accolades because it takes real understanding of how things are and how things work. And I always tell my kids, and I have to make my son listen to you. He's 14, but he's National Junior Honor Society, and he's school president. So I say I'm gonna make him listen to this episode to see what he can achieve. But I always tell him that things are not black and white. Like we always try to train for that, but in reality, a lot of circumstances are, different. Like what you say, well, I never imagined this was going to happen, but kind of did, and never pans out the way we expected it. So you go into private practice now, which I'm sure is very different from what you were coming. What were the things that shocked you the most from the private sector?
Well, you know what I learned, and I have a son. And by the way, talking about my kids real quickly, two of my sons actually went to West Point as well.
Oh, wow.
One is getting ready to retire as a lieutenant colonel next month. He spent 20 years, three
Congratulations.
combat tours, one in Iraq, two in Afghanistan, and
Oh,
he
my God.
married to Jen and have three grandkids with him. We have Connor, who just turned 11. We have
Oh,
Ren, who is 10, and Kennedy. And the special thing about Kennedy, she and my wife shared a birthday.
oh, wow. Look at that. That is very special.
Very
That
sweet.
is very,
And then
yes.
my middle son, Nathaniel, he lives in down your way. He's in North Palm Beach,
Okay, Florida. Viva Florida.
works with waste management. And then my youngest son, who also went to West Point. And by the way, both of the sons went to West Point, and they went to Duke for their MBAs.
Oh my goodness. Wow, all-star family here.
Well, they are anyway, and all that to my wife. But anyway, he works in sales for Microsoft, and he is in Dallas. And we just celebrated his first son's 1 year birthday last 3 weeks ago. And then they informed us at Christmas that they're pregnant with their second kid. So,
Oh my God, that's what I was saying. Isn't that the one that's about to have another one? Holy
yes.
cannoli. Okay, wow.
Yeah.
That's great news. That's I think at the end of the day, and I can see how you just by sharing, because I come from the same thing where family is so important and it's at the center of everything. And I love when I share that with my guests, people that are extremely successful, extremely accomplished, but still the family, it's at the center of it all.
It really is. We were just on the phone. We have a nice vacation. Well, actually, tomorrow, oh no, Thursday, I leave for a family golf outing in Myrtle Beach that we've made I guess 4 or 5 years now since my wife passed. We
Mhm.
get together and have this, and my wife always insisted on treating them to a couple of vacations for a year. So we'll be going back to, so I'm going to Cabo on my own, and then the family will go to Cancun later in June. The whole,
Oh,
all 10 of us.
that's so nice. And so I have a curiosity. Is this something that you've always done? Because a lot of people, when some people say, well, I cannot take vacation because I'm so busy. And I know you're a busy man. I mean, you are on so many boards, you're on so many things. Have you always made the time to do the family, or is it now more than maybe you are at a different stage? Or what can
My
you
wife
say
and
to
I,
those?
my wife and I just remember, by the way, my wife passed away from cancer, pancreatic cancer.
I'm sorry
And
to hear.
she lived for 18 months after her diagnosis. And I just remember talking to her, and she was like, that disease is one, there is no cure. And it's just a matter of time before most people succumb to it. And her point was, we've had a very full life because she and I traveled a lot individually, travel with the family. So I've always taken that time. And it's important to just recharge. And we work
Mhm.
so hard and we accomplish things, and we need to enjoy them along the way. I should probably be enjoying a little more than I do, but the background that I come from, I
Mhm.
don't believe in waste, if you know what I'm saying. So I probably could, let's just say I could probably live a higher lifestyle than I do, but I'm very, very happy.
That's, I think at the end of the day, that's the core is to be happy and be fulfilled. And again, as I say, because I invite a lot of people, some of them say yes, some of them say no, but I'm always surprised by how the ones that you think they're so accomplished there that they're probably going to say no are the ones that say yes, including you. Like that's how, I don't know if you're familiar with Seth Godin was on my show. He was my episode 100, and people ask me, how did you get him? And I say, I just asked. And but then he said, I don't say yes to everybody, but just the way you ask, there was something different. But I think that humanity that you have, where you also kind of give people an opportunity to do things like that. That is, not everybody has that, so I'm going to give you credit. So, I mean, you have so many accolades, influential man, business leader. What are you seeing in the times we're living? I know you're a big advocate also of pulling people up, not just men, women, black, white. I've seen you speak, and you're really passionate about really helping others, be successful as well. You mentor people that want to be on boards. What do you think there are like some of the actionable things on the current state that we're living, let's say for women wanting to advance positions or for minorities, because we're navigating strange times.
Yeah, we're having very, very challenging and interesting times. And one of those things, obviously, that's going on in the United States now is I'm going to call it assault on diversity of all counts and all times. And even, within our government, within our military. And one of the things that I'm doing on the many boards that I serve on is, first of all, when you get on a board, you want to make sure that you're with people that are like-minded, not so much in that you come to the same decision, because you want to have constructive challenge and debate on the issues to come to the best outcome. However, there's some fundamental things that are important, and those fundamental things are values. If you can
Mhm.
align on values and long-term look to make sure those values are achieved, there may be short-term expediencies, because the way I'm explaining the current situation is it's all about the golden rule. He who has the gold makes the rules. Okay. I have
I like
another
that.
saying, this too shall pass.
Hmm.
And the issue is, how do you operate in an environment like we are now, staying true to your values, at the same time understanding that you have to operate within a system, and I'm calling it don't poke the bear, right?
Hmm.
Okay,
Hmm.
what you want to do is you want to survive so that you will have the opportunity to influence tomorrow.
Hmm.
And
I like
that's
that.
it's a very tight rope to walk. However, you have to be realistic as well. And from the political perspective, everybody has an opportunity to vote. That's something that we really cherish here in America, and we accept our elections as they come, and we'll just see how that pendulum swings the next time around.
That's very, very good advice. And as I said, it's not all black and white in the situations like I was sharing with you, and I haven't shared here, but I was part of an FCC committee on the equity and diversity, which I'm very passionate about. I was part of it for 4 years. I think it was good work, but it got disbanded, and I was disappointed about that. But for instance, I work with the FCC chairman on workforce development, and he has been amazing on that front. So, to your point, I think that there's alignment in different buckets of things that maybe is not like we cannot have a pendulum where it's all or nothing. Like we have to recognize that alignment is not all together in one thing. We all agree on everything. And I think on the boardroom, I think it's the same. Like sometimes it's about bringing perspective and maybe saying, yes, this is my perspective on this issue, and then trying to find a way forward, as you say, in a way where we have to keep moving forward at the end of the day. There's no way, no other option.
I agree.
I agree. Perfect. And so the other thing, as it relates, I know you do a lot of interactions internationally. What's your perspective for me as I'm Italian also. So for when I go to Europe, I go back home and I see, what people say over there. I love this country so much. And I'm always like trying to reconcile everything that's happening. Do you have any particular thoughts right now in terms of the US and the rest of the world?
Well, we're obviously have been looked upon as a leader in the world, both from a financial, I'm going to say from military, of which we
Mm.
have the most powerful military in the world. Our economy is obviously one of the largest in the world. And to the extent that I like to say that we also, lead in values in terms of trying to do the right thing, both as a nation and obviously individuals within the nation. And how we're viewed right now, I have not been overseas particularly, but obviously from my business world, I interact with people, and some of them will say, why is what's happening? And can't you do something about it? Et cetera, et cetera. However, we had a fair election. The election results turned out as they did. And that's why we have midterm elections coming up in 18 months or so. And we also have a new presidential election coming up in 3.5 years. So
Mhm.
if our country decides that we need to take a new path, the majority will rule, and we will do that. If it determines that, the things that are happening now are in the best interest long term, those things will continue to happen. And I can
Mhm.
tell you, I mean, from a uh, efficiency perspective, some of the things that are happening now are not all bad,
Mhm.
particularly when it comes to efficiency type issues. And there may be difference of opinion on how to implement, right?
Mhm.
People
Mhm.
may have a different view there.
Mhm.
So we'll,
Yeah,
we'll
I love that point. Yeah, I love that point because it's kind of what I was saying. It's like it's always sometimes it's not this side or that side. People sometimes want to be so extreme in what they think, and we fail to see perspective. So the one thing I wanted to ask you about, because of your career and you've done so many things, is there any one pivotal moment or a couple or anything that you say when you look back, like, if I hadn't done that, if I hadn't pursued that, maybe this wouldn't have happened?
I'm going to tell you something that I include in a lot of speeches that I give, and it's
Yes.
so timely that you asked that question. Much of my success, I think, has come from my interaction with people.
Mhm.
And there are two words that people often talk about. And the first one is networking. And networking is very important. Networking has a place because it is about, interacting with people. However, in my definition, networking is also transactional in nature. What can I do for Leticia and what can she do for me? Okay.
Mhm.
And that's not necessarily bad. However, what I have done is I have gone by a concept that I call connecting. And let me tell you the difference. Connecting is when you're willing to do something for or with someone without regard as to what you're going to receive in return. And if you can consistently do that, if you can authentically do that, you end up with a relationship. Relationships are enduring. Relationships are foundational. Relationships result in the ability to really have a connection, influence, and get things done. However, there's a very unselfish portion of that. You don't know which of these connections, it's kind of like planting acorns. You don't know which
Mhm.
one is going to sprout. However, you need to plant them all and be
Mhm.
consistent in doing it. And as a result of that, the majority of my interactions result from having connections and relationships as opposed to being transactional in nature.
Well, you're making my heart sing, because that's how I've always approached. And sometimes you wonder, and people say, people wonder, but I call it networking with heart, like coming from an authentic place. And sometimes don't you find that people say, how did that happen? And it's so, when you see the dots of people that you connected, it's almost impossible to tell them how it happened. It's like, oh, that's too long story, but I really appreciate you sharing that, because anybody out there, don't minimize drinking a coffee with somebody or going to lunch with somebody. Don't see it as lost time, because that's time you're going to use connecting with somebody. And really, if you're there in the present moment, you're going to see it. That I love that. So I know I could talk to you forever, but I know that we have some time limitations. I usually like to ask about the tough times and what makes you tick. And if you have a practice in those days where you maybe didn't believe that the thing you wanted was going to happen, and you have to plant the seeds and let them grow and gain some patience. Is there anything in particular that kept you grounded?
Well, let me tell you, my wife kept me grounded. Right? The accolades and awards or whatever I might have received, when I got home, it was like, okay, the garbage is taken out, okay. So that was certainly, I think our partners are so important, not only in challenging us to make sure we keep our feet on the ground, but also encouraging us when things don't go exactly the way that you would like for them to go. And, having the impact of losing one's life partner. I mean, I'm recovering from it. That'll be 4 years next month. And it's challenging. However, with the support that she gave in terms of saying, I know this is going to happen to me, but I want you to go forth and continue to make great things happen. And that meant a lot. It meant a lot to me.
Mm.
The days that, even when my wife died, and there is a thing called grief, there is a thing called pity and self-sorrow. And I certainly had that for a degree. And I'll never forget, it was the day after she passed, and my little granddaughter, Kennedy, came into my room, and I had the blinds down, and, I'm going through this mourning process. And she said, gee, Dad, my name is G-Dad. G-Dad,
Uh-huh.
you in the bed with no clothes on. And I just looked,
Uh-huh.
and the innocence. And then I said, okay, I'll be down. And I went in the bathroom and I looked at myself in the mirror. I didn't look very good. I may not even look good now. But the point is, at that point, Leticia, you know what I thought of? I thought of my mom when she lost her husband.
Mm.
She was facing 6 kids, pregnant, no education,
Mhm.
no real job. And I'm sitting here in this palatial house,
Mhm.
funds in the bank, and the only thing I have is this sorrow. And I said, you know what? Snap out of it.
Mm.
Snap out of it.
Mm.
Think about what she faced at the exact same time in terms of the relative of losing her partner and what she had to face and what I had to face. And that
Mm.
snapped me out of it just like that.
Thank you for sharing that. That's a powerful reflection of A, leading by example. So your mom was an example, and at that point, you had the perfect thing to go by, incredible example, and also gratitude. So I'm not surprised that you are such an inspiration to others, and that you do all the things you do. And I thank you, as a woman in the industry trying to do more. It's always encouraging to see people like you, and not to lose their humanity on one end, but also being so excellent that you give us so much more to want to learn and do. And I thank you for coming to Back to Basic to share your journey with us.
Thank you. It was a pleasure to be on your show.
Thank you so much, Herman. And I hope you enjoyed this as much as I can. And check out the show notes, because there's a lot of accolades that this man has that you have to read about. Thank you so much. And until the new episode of Back to Basics. You've been listening to Back to Basics. You can follow us on Instagram and Facebook. If you haven't yet, subscribe, rate, and review this podcast on Apple Podcast or any of your favorite streaming platforms. This is the best gift you can give us. Join me next week for another Back to Basics conversation. And if you want to find out about other exciting things I'm working on, visit leticialatino.com. Thank you, and until the next time.